Hey guys, this is going to be part one of a Sally Out compilation that I am making. This is going to be a 5-part video um, showcasing 5 different Sally Outs, 5 different situations that are really cool. It's going to be hopefully informative. I hope you guys enjoy watching them. Once again, this is going to be part one. Keep an eye out for part number 2 that will be coming out a little bit later. The reason I'm splitting it up is just because I have a lot of these clips. So if I tried to do them all in one, it would just be a super, super long video. So I really hope you guys enjoy this. And without further ado, let's kick it off with number 1. Alright, so for number 1 on the list, we have got a 3v3 on the settlement of Tur. And on this one, it looks like on the attackers' side, we've got 2 Roman armies and a Seleucid army. And then on the defense, we've got an army. We have Kush, we have Syracuse, and we have Saba. So for this one, I skipped forward a little bit because this one was kind of a slow developing Cav Sally Out. On this side here, we have 2 units of armored camel spears from Saba. But what they did was on the back end here, on this gate here where there's really no army, no enemy attacking or anything, they sallied out of this gate, and they're actually making their way around this back end here, which you actually can go through. So you can see we do have, let's see, 2 units of Syracuse Mercenary Italian Cav, and then we actually have 4 units from Kush. We have a African War Elephant, Ethiopian Cav, and then the actual Kush General. But also, Saba does have 2 more units of armored camel spears over here. So let's go ahead and hit play on this one. And as this one kind of gets started, I can give you a little of an idea what's going on at this point. Rome is pushing pretty good on these guys. You can see they actually have some pretty good pushes happening. Looks like they broke down the gate and it is neutralized. And actually, there's 6 units a Praetorian Guard coming from Rome here, so that is a pretty tough force to contend with for the defenders here. Right here you can see a lot more Romans up on the walls fighting into mostly Syracuse, but there's some Kush support here. At least they do have Kush because Syracuse is a faction that really won't be able to hold against Rome usually. So the issue that they have here, and where this Cav Sally Out is going to be very helpful for them, is that this is going to put a ton of pressure on the defense over here. One, I would not be doing this as the attackers. I would not be throwing 6 units of Praetorian, 6 units of anything, all through the same gate at the same time, because there's also another unit of Hastati that's already here. But what this Cav Sally Out is going to end up doing is this is going to relieve some of the pressure upon the defenders at this point, because the attackers are going to have to start dealing with the cavalry, which means that they're going to be basically they're just not going to be paying as much attention to this assault, and they honestly will probably end up having to stop attacking with as much force because they have to kind of stop and deal with the enemy cavalry. Those 2 units of armored camel spears are actually going to be coming out of this gate now. What they're actually going to do here, so if you can do this, usually it's really hard to do because these guys are visible at this point. So it really comes down to if you're playing a good enough player, they're not going to miss this. But what ends up happening is the attackers don't see these units, so they're actually just going to take these units. They're going to come right into these trees over here, and they're going to just kind of move over in these trees. You know, I think one thing that didn't help is the fog that is on this map right now. Alright, so here comes the Ethiopian Cav. The Ethiopian Cav are coming in and hitting into the Roman archers, which are completely and totally exposed. There's nothing here protecting them. These archers are, you know, completely out here. While, I mean, they've got 6 units of Praetorian Guard trying to go through this one gate. and nothing is protecting these archers. So these Ethiopian cav, which may not be the greatest cav on the planet, they can get into these archers because they're unopposed. Now, what is nice, and it doesn't look like the defenders realized, was that the attackers had cavalry sitting in this forest over here. So we've got a unit of auxiliary cav, yep, all 3 auxiliary cav coming in to counter. The archers, let's see, this guy lost 12, this guy hasn't lost any, but there is another one that is almost at half now from that cav charge. The auxiliary cav is basically put a stopper to these armored camel spears. The nice thing about those camel spears is they have a bonus against horses, so they'll be able to kind of keep these guys locked down. But for the attackers, they're basically just locking down this unit so that it can't continue to go wreak havoc. The other Ethiopian cav actually made its way trying to get into Seleucid's stuff, but Seleucid did a really good job at moving his archers away and keeping infantry support nearby. So well done by him. You can see the Ethiopian cav here is starting to break, but they've done a really good job here. You know, these guys, they're just here to kill archers. So they are breaking one at 42 and breaking another at 67, although that one just came back. The other Ethiopian cav here is at 80 kills, so very nice for that one. The camel spears, you know, they're not really killing much, but they are keeping the auxiliary cav here locked down so that other units can come in and do the work of getting into the soft spots. Sometimes that's the best thing you can do with some of this heavier cav is lock down enemy units so that your other cavalry, the faster ones, can get through and kind of, you know, get around, get through some of these smaller places to go at softer targets. Now over here, the camel spears are in the forest over here, kind of reforming. They are right next to this heavy onager for Rome. The Romans are actually moving that heavy onager a little closer. I think they're wanting to get some shots into the back areas here of the defenders because you can see they've got a really nice push going on this corner. But over here, you know, the attackers, both Seleucid and Rome, are really just dealing so much with this cav sally out. But I guess they don't have to worry they don't have to micro too much because most of their army is already in the settlement, or trying to get in the settlement is what I mean. I mean, once again, I think this was just a bad idea by the attackers. You should by no means be sending 6 units of, you know, into this tiny little spot here. It doesn't really do anything. And Kush, really good idea of actually just taking his elephants and throwing them right in the back of these Praetorian Guard. These Praetorian Guard are just crammed together here, stuck between the Kushite defense and now an elephant unit that is just racking up kills here. 235 so far. The camel spears are starting to break these auxiliary cav. Now they're going to come in and start hitting the Roman general. Seleucid did put a couple of his thorax swords into this combat, so they are probably going to be doing some damage here. Really not too much. They're kind of getting tore up by this cavalry. If I was the cav, though, I would probably be, you know, cycling in and out here. Even though some of this is melee cav, it still helps to get that charge bonus. Melee cav lasts longer in, you know, in melee, but it's still not one you probably want to leave in melee. So over here, the camel spears were actually seen. They had poked out a little too far here, and the Roman player ended up seeing him, and they actually had some archers over here, stuff like that they started peppering in here. So the camel spears actually pulled off, probably just to hold on for a later attack. But I would say that this sally has been very successful. You know, they have done quite a bit of damage to this army over here, especially in this gate. Those Praetorian Guards just got decimated here. Let me see. The elephant is at 300, and good look at that. They're just, even just watching them, that number is skyrocketing as they run through the backs of these Praetorian Guard and Hastati. They are just tearing them up. But you can see that this entire area here is just, it's just death. They're done for. Syracuse still has some of his cav left. He's got 62 units here, and they're just kind of running through the back, or these running troops. But I think what they're end up going for is they're going to be going for this area here. And I wouldn't be surprised if at the same time the camel spears start moving in on the other flank as well. Saba still has small units of these camel spears over here, and then Kush still has his Royal Guard as well. Royal Guard's at 75 out of 80. 68 kills, not too bad at all. The elephants, 454. You can see, though, that they are starting to lose some units, but they have done a very, very good job. I definitely say they've got their worth out of this. Syracuse cavalry came in, hit the Velites here, and then they're trying to silence the Roman onager. Now, if I was Saba, though, as this was happening, I would be taking my camel spears and I'd be moving in over here. They are distracted by the Syracuse cav, so that means you could find just different things you can do over here. Yeah, this Italian cav is definitely a slash and dash kind of cav. You know, it's something you typically want to be getting around formations into the softer areas, while things like the camel spears over here, you know, if you have any healthy ones, they're the ones you want to send in and lock down the heavier units. Because this cav here is not going to do too great against some of the better cav in the game. So a lot of, you know, let's say heavy horse or things like that, you know, are pretty good cavalry, and those Italian cav probably aren't going to beat that. Something like Citizen Cav they could probably take. Man, these elephants are still going at 601 kills. But you can see that because of that sally, this entire area here, this entire side is completely, it's over. Which means that now the defenders can take all of their units and they can start shifting over to this other corner to help deal with that. To be honest, I think that's about it of this sally out on this side. You know, they do have some units left. They've got the African war elephants still left. But, you know, they pretty much cleaned this up. Just this sally out really just decimated this entire flank over here. But yeah, so that is our first sally out. Let's move on to number 2. Alright, so for number 2 on the list, we have a 4v4. This is also on the settlement of Tur. On this one, we've got attacking, we've got Macedon, Seleucid, and I believe 2 Romes. And defending, we have Kush, Saba, Nabatea, and Arverni. So in this one, the attackers were kind of going for a split prong, like a 2-prong attack here. They had 2 units of cav that are the Saba Desert Heavy Lancers. They had them here, and they actually brought them out onto this side. So a small cav force that is coming out and threatening the Macedonian flank over here. But while that is happening, on the back side over here, so the same place that in the first sally out on the list, the defenders now have a cav force that's coming out on this side, but instead of flipping around and going around the back, they are actually going to be coming right out, setting up, and they're going to come right over this hill. What they are hoping to happen with the Saba cav over here, they are hoping that they can convince cav that's over here to come over and assist Macedon against what's happening over on him, therefore opening up the flank to the bigger cav force over here. So let's go ahead and get this one underway, and we'll see how it goes. So as you can see over here, Nabatea has 2 Desert Heavy Lances, Kush has his General, which is the Kushite Royal Guard, and 2 African Elephants. Then Arverni here has 3 units of Heavy Horse. So a pretty sizable cav wing. over here, Saba really is just here to kind of be a thorn in the side of Macedon. They're trying to draw as much attention to themselves as they possibly can. One thing that they may try to do, you saw an attack order there. They could go and attack the back of the towers. If you make contact with these units, they will actually leave the towers, which once again slows down this attack quite a bit because the units then have to get back onto the towers. But Macedon has actually done a pretty good job here. He's got a pretty good force of thorough spears that are guarding his flank. So we couldn't see, they couldn't see these units that were sitting in these woods, and so Saba went in on Macedon, not really realizing that Macedon was very well prepared for it. Macedon also has a unit of citizen cav that he's going to use to try and chase these guys off. As we were looking at that, you could see that the actual cav force here is starting to crest this hill, and they're going to be coming down on this hill against the flank of Rome and Seleucid over here. Now I'm looking, I think that there's 2 Seleucid armies and 1 Roman army. That's what this looks like. So what's going to happen here? Arverni has the 3 units of cavalry here. They have heavy melee cav. These heavy horse are pretty solid. They are outmatched by some of the Socii Equites Extraordinariae. They are outclassed by that, but at this point, all Arverni really needs to do is lock these units down. So by taking his 3 units and locking down the cavalry of Rome, it is going to allow the other cav units from like Nabatea and Kush here to actually make their ways through and hit the back lines and hit the soft spots of the Roman and Seleucid armies. So Nabatea, he's got 1 cav unit that he is going to bring down in this way, and he's got a cav unit. He's actually going to swing all the way around and come this way because Arverni's got 2 of the Roman cav units tied down here, and Kush actually came in. Oh, not what I meant to do. Kush actually came in with his gen and hit the back end of this Roman cav unit while Arverni's cav tied it down. And at this point, the elephants are starting to get into the middle lines of the Romans and Seleucids here as Nabatea goes for things like archers. These elephants are going to be able to get into things like the infantry and even into these like Syrian archers here. Rome's general is already extremely hurt, 25 out of 40. But you could see, even if Arverni's cav loses here, it's not the big deal. That's not what they were here for. They used their force to stop the Romans so that the other cav units could come in and do the damage. Nabatea did loop in and hit the back end of these Romans here, but now the Romans tried to do the same thing to Arverni's cav, but Arverni's other cav unit here that was fighting here was freed up and was able to come in and countercharge that Socii Equitae, and it's actually going to give these 2 units here a little bit of a chance to regroup so that they can maybe come back in and charge back into this combat. But you can see the Kushite Gen is really coming through. He's got 50 kills. He's starting to get into some of this stuff. The elephants, 172 on this one. This guy's at 175. Now this one's not moving at the moment, but I'm sure that he'll get going here. This guy is still moving through these. Look at this, right into the Seleucid archers. At this point, Seleucid really should have been trying to get some like fire arrows into them or something while they were still over here. But now they're just going to tear up these Seleucid archers. Although Seleucid does have some thorax pikes here. Let's see, Saba. Yeah, Saba once again, he's just being annoying. He's just being a nuisance to Macedon, continuing to make his presence known over here. Seleucid has actually got 2 units here. What are they? It's just light cav, so not too bad for the attack or for the defenders. You know, if they had maybe median cav or something, that median cav is pretty good. Here, the desert heavy lancers are going to countercharge into the light cav. Now, I think the elephants, let's see, yeah, the elephants are starting to fall. 213 kills on this guy and 204 on this one. And this is good. They've got a shield bearer that they're getting into, and the shield bearers are going to tear them up. They've got a bonus 20 versus large. Now, Arverni's cav is pretty much beat up, pretty much depleted at this point, but they still have, you know, small units left. Let's see, 24, and 14? Yeah, 14 on these guys. But once again, they're going to try and kind of get in and try and avoid these stuff and come in and get into these back archers that are trying to run away. The Desert Heavy Lancers just got charged by the Light Cav. Now this Desert Heavy Lancers at 216 kills here. The Light Cav is trying to counter as much as they can. 33 kills and 23 kills. And then the Arverni Cav is still alive, coming in, trying to get around here. Once again, just trying to use their speed to get into these more vulnerable targets, while Nabatia's Cav was holding on to that Light Horse for a little while. Now, the Light Horse is free to move now, both of them. 23 left on that guy and 58 left. So this one got hurt pretty bad by the Desert Heavy Lancers. So Arverni's Cav did get into the Velites here and into some of the Syrian archers. But Seleucid does have some thorax swords to help counter that. The attack, you know, Rome really can't do anything, so Kush has really been able to focus down. Kush and Saba have really been able to focus down Rome because Seleucid is really... both Rome and Seleucid really haven't been able to attack, so Macedon is really the only... Or Macedon and the second Seleucid army, the only ones really getting to make this attack right now, just because these two armies are too busy dealing with the sally out. Oh, and look at this. Saba was able, because of how much Macedon committed, he left his ally completely exposed. So here comes the Saba Desert Heavy Lancers trying to get into these archers. Now, Macedon's pretty exposed too. He doesn't have anything defending against this. Looks like Saba's going to get into the Syrian archers, but it looks like Seleucid was able to... He caught it just in time to hopefully save a couple of his archer units here. Got a Silver Shield sword that's going to come try and counter off this cavalry. They're just going to try and get out of there. Once again, no point in committing into something that, you know, they don't really need to. As you can see on this side, the sally out is pretty much done. But if you look at what it's done in the settlement, in the fact that the attackers have not been able to push in at full force, you can see that it really dealt a heavy, heavy blow. You know, Nabatea and Arverni are almost untouched fighting Macedon here. You know, Arverni's coming in around the side, wrapped in like this. You know, that is just another sign of a lot of the power of a sally out. So even though the defenders still do have 2 units of the Desert Heavy Lancers, that pretty much is going to be the end of number 2 on the list. Moving on to number 3. Alright, for number 3, we've got a 3v3 on the settlement of Berta Gala. On this one, defending, we've got Bactria, Kush, and Macedon, and attacking, we have Arverni, Rome, and Pergamon. So on this one, on this settlement, there's really only 2 settlements that you can, or maybe 2 gates that you can go out of. There's one here, and as you can see, there's really no cavalry or anything here. The second gate is on the back side here, and you can see that the defenders are going for a sally out of the back, where they're going to come out and come around on the flank of Pergamon here. Let's go ahead and get this one going, and we'll see what goes on, what happens. So Bactria has 2 noble horse, Bush has 2 Ethiopian cav, and Macedon has 2 Thessalian cavalry. So they are going to go into these woods here. Oh, and looky there. Well done by the attackers. Pergamon actually had cavalry sitting on this side. I'm expecting because he was, worried about a sally out. So he actually set his 2 cavalry over here to watch his flank. Very nicely done by him. So he's going to move his cavalry back, but I think he made a misclick. His cavalry is not running. Yeah, he started walking there for a sec, which means that the Bactrians actually had a good chance to kind of catch up with them. So these Hippeus Lancers from Pergamon, they are kind of out of position at this point. We have very heavy shot cavalry versus only heavy melee cab. That heavy melee cab is faster than the very heavy shot cab. And what the issue is for that is that shot cab is really best when it is charging at something, not when it gets hit from behind like this. So the second unit of cavalry is kind of in the clear here. He's still trying to get this second unit out of that situation there. But you can see that he's just not quite fast enough. At this point, I almost wonder if, he's going to try and turn around and try and get a charge in with them. But it really wasn't a very good one. So you can see he got one Bactrian noble or noble horse, and then the other one is here. He tried to it looked like that Bactria actually was going to try and run past. So good job by Pergamon. He took that Hippeus Lancer and just threw it into the noble horse to keep it there. Now, interestingly, I'm kind of surprised that Kush and Macedon aren't taking their cav and moving on here. There's really, you could see Pergamon is starting to set stuff up. Pikes, he's got his Agema spears moving up. But really, they could take their 4 units and they could kind of move around if they wanted to. So I'm kind of surprised or not. It looks like Kush is basically stopping to use his Javies against these Hippeus Lancers. Once again, I don't think it's necessary. I think he could have taken those and probably used them in other places instead. Well, the Hippeus Lancer is broken and shattered now, so they are completely gone. The Bactrian Noble Horse is at 68 and 64. So they are, let's see how they end up moving towards this. It's kind of a nasty situation here. They've got a lot of archers, and these Agema Spirits have a ton of javelins. They're kind of like a better thorough spear, honestly, and they look awesome. I'm using the Ancient Empire's reskin mod for this one, and they just look so cool. And then he's got 2 pikes there, so it might be kind of a tough one of where he decides to go with this. I do like this move. Bactria is taking his cav right, and Kush is going to bring his cav in on the inside. And I think that Macedon's going to come this way. That's what it looks like from this angle. Yeah, he's going to come out on the wide swing along with Bactria. Now, I don't know what Pergamon's doing here, but he just left his archers completely open to the charge there. He's getting great shots with the Agema Spears, but it's almost like he baited the cavalry with his archers, and I don't really... I think that was just bad mismanagement by Pergamon. He's throwing his Agema Spears in to try and kill these Ethiopians, and now he's kind of trying to get his archers out. But like I said, it's almost like he baited the cavalry with his archers, and I think that's just a bad idea. So Kush really just got a free charge here. 126 kills on this one. I think, 129 on the other? So a great job getting to those archers, and really just bad mismanagement by Pergamon. Then on the back here, we have Bactria's cav coming in, and he split Pergamon put the Agema Spears here, and Bactria just went around him. Only one unit. You got to choose which direction to go, and he didn't go either direction. I think this is just a player that has been overwhelmed in micromanagement here. Bactria got into the Roman onager, and now the other unit of Bactria Cav is moving through. But it does look like Pergamon's Payas Lancers are going to get into it. Once again, they did not get a very good charge at all. But we still have the Thessalian Cav from Macedon. He's going to come in, clean up these archers, and then looks like these guys are going to kind of swing wide around. Maybe try to get to the back end of Rome here. The Hippeus Lancers really aren't doing great there. Now, the Bactrian noble horse is already hurt, and now the Roman Gen is going to try and come help along with some Evocati cohort. Look at these Evocatis. Oh, man, they look so good. Now, the noble horse, this noble horse is still alive. It's the one that destroyed the Onager crew, and he's coming in. I think he's going around trying to go for the the Pergamon crew. So I guess we'll see. Is Pergamon going to be able to? No, I don't think they're going to be able to stop that either. Yeah, I think this is Pergamon in this game. I guarantee it's a new player that is just being overloaded by the amount of micro that he needed to do at this point. That much cav coming at him, which is unfortunate because he kind of had the perfect faction for it. You know, his entire army is spears. You know, spears and javelins, so they are the perfect counter to these cavalry that came at him. I just think he was a little overloaded. Now the Thessalian Cav is still pushing out on this side. Very interesting. I think he's going to come out. Is he going to try and sneak in to the back of the Roman box, maybe? And I think the Hippeus Lancers are trying to find it still. They're trying to find that unit. But I don't think he knows where they are. Yeah, there they are. But he's not moving. Once again, I think he's trying to micro too much stuff. Looks like they did finally end up defeating the Bactrian cavalry with assistance from Rome, the Evocati cohort and the Gen. But man, Pergamon is not in a good spot. He lost so much. Just in the way of like his archers and things like that, he lost way too many men there. Now, the Thessalian Cav, I kind of want to see what they end up doing because Rome's not really responding to them at all. And and neither is Arverni. Arverni's not sending his heavy horse or anything. So maybe, I don't know. And Pergamon's not sending his Hippeus Lancers to go deal with them. Yeah, I think he's just going to go into the back of the Roman box. Now, if I was him, he's really drawn out right now, and if you look at just the mouth of this box here, it's pretty small. I would probably condense down to a smaller formation so you can get right between these two, the two Evocatis right into the archers. See how he's kind of going to get caught up here. Yeah, see, like, part of his unit all got caught over here. Had he gone to a smaller unit, he could have gotten right into the archers with no issue. Yeah. So this was just bad mismanagement by the attackers here, but a very, very successful sally out by the defenders. You know, and if you look, they really have barely made it to the walls at this point. Alright, guys, well, I think that is going to be the end of number 3. Moving on to number 4. Here we are at number 4. Number 4 takes place on the city of Tarsus, and this one is a 4v4. On defense, we have Saba, Lusitani, Sicily, and Pontus. On attack, we have Seleucid, Boei, Kush, and Bactria. So in this one, the defenders really went for an all-out, all-or-nothing sally out. It is very risky because if you don't hit pay dirt, then you have no defense anymore. But if it pays off, you can end the entire battle. So Sicily here is pretty much all going to be coming right here. They've got armored desert cav, armored Numidian riders, more armored desert cav, but they also have armored desert chariots, African elephants, more chariots, and then, of course, their general is an armored Numidian rider. Saba on this side has, 3 units of camel archers, 2 units of camel spearmen, Arabian cav back in here, a couple units of camel spears, camel lancers, and their general is a Marib camel cataphract. On the far back side here, we've got Pontus. And Pontus and Lusitani. Lusitani has 3 units of Iberian cav. Pontus brought Scythian horse archers. Scythian horse archers, 2 scythe chariots, 4 scythe chariots, holy crap. Pontic Royal Cav, and then they do have some more of their infantry back here. Now, the thing is, though, they kind of also did a guerrilla deploy as well. So Lusitani has 5 units of guerrilla warriors, 2 units of Lusitani guerrillas, which are spear units, and then Masacely put 3 units of Numidian riders, all going here. So what their plan is at this point is to get these units in and lock down Seleucid here, so that while that is happening, the cavalry sally out can make its way out and get it developed to go and hit Seleucid. Now, at this point, I'm going to take a second and give a suggestion. Try not to do this, because if you do this, that means that as your units are trying to go through this gate, you're getting tied up with each other, especially when you have big units like scythe chariots in here. Try to keep this formation as clean as possible and do it in kind of like in a row. Have things go out one by one. You can do it all at once. Just make sure that they're all kind of going behind each other so they go cleanly. Masacely did a really good job of it up here. He had a little more room to work with, of course, but you could see his cavalry is not all tied up with each other. Now, what he wants to avoid doing is just clicking all of these and saying go, because they're all going to go through this gate at the exact same time, and that just doesn't work. You probably want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of one at a time. It takes a little bit longer to develop, but honestly, it kind of doesn't, because a lot of times this kind of stuff gets really tied up with each other. We're going to hit play and get this one going, because as you could probably guess, it's going to start very, very quickly. Seleucid here is in for quite a surprise. So the Numidian cav from Masacely is going to come in right in this way, and really, first order business, tie down this unit, maybe tie down this unit, and get one more unit through to the archers. Now, Seleucid is doing a pretty good job here of trying to run his archers back, but get his infantry forward. Now, some of this cavalry, sometimes if they get a good enough charge, they may try to go right through that infantry unit and continue into your archers. So make sure to try and keep in this situation, try to keep an attack order from your infantry to follow the cavalry, otherwise they might just get away from you. Now, Lusitani's coming in and hitting the edges here. You got a thorough spear being hit by these guerrilla warriors. And then it looks like we're going to have another one try and come in around on the edge. As you can see, the units on the towers and stuff are trying to get off the tower to get into the combat, while the hillmen here try to come in and tie down these Lusitani units. But as you can see, we're starting to see the sally out units. But you could tell that they kind of got bound up, because you could see how spread out the formation is. It means that a lot of these units were stuck, and they're kind of trying to catch up with their unit. So the Scythian horse archers, I cannot say horse archer today, they're coming in, and they're going to start trying to do some damage to this stuff. So Seleucid's going to move his archers, try and kind of keep them behind here so that they can counter into those Scythian horse archers. But you can see the Iberian cav is going to come in, and their left flank of Seleucid is really exposed here. The citizen cav from Seleucid is going to go try and counter some of that, and then his gen is also going to go that way. His gen's been in a little bit of combat, but he's going to send him to try and counter that. A Gema Cav will do really good work against the Iberians. So Seleucid's really just trying to get his infantry in combat with a lot of this stuff here. At this point, you could tell that a lot of this stuff is just now becoming visible. You know, these chariots just became visible, but these guys are still invisible. So you know, the defenders the attackers at this point really don't know the extent of the sally out. So it puts Seleucid put some thorax swords in on the Iberian sword, or the Iberian cav there, and he's trying to get his Agema cav to get in here as he uses archers to counter out the Scythian horse archers. He needs to be really careful, though, because the Iberian cav is trying to loop around here and get around the defense of the citizen cavalry, which is going to leave his archers very exposed. He's got some of his depleted units trying to run over as he moves his archers back to try and keep them out. He's able to get his gen to back through to hit the Iberian cav, though. The Lusitani guerrilla infantry is starting to fall, but the issue is they've done very well at what they were supposed to, and that's literally just hold down this line long enough for the chariots and things like that to get into this combat. So the Scythian chariots are really starting to get through things, especially those stagnant units. You know, this one's at 60 kills. This one's already at 100-something, tearing through these thorax swords, royal peltists. Seleucid probably could have done a little better job at trying to get some javelin tosses on these chariots before they got in, but that can be a little hard to do. So in situations like this with these chariots, try not to keep things clumped. So you can see Seleucid's trying to spread out. He's throwing an archer here, throwing an archer here, brought an archer back here, an archer over here. So then the side chariot basically has to pick which unit it wants to go for. Makes it a little bit harder for it to get into those really big clumps of infantry. They're trying to put down as much focus fire onto these chariots as they possibly can. These archers are laying into these guys over here. And then the Kushite Royal Gen came in and attacked this Scythe chariot. He's lost a little bit of men. He's 28 men, or 18 men is what he's lost here. The infantry for Seleucid is really just trying to do as much as they can to hold off this sally over here. And over on this side, you could see Bactria was getting hit too. They actually had a lot of stuff come out of the gates here. Lusitani's moving more stuff out. They had more stuff from Masacely that came in, trying to hit the Kush units. But you could see they kind of left things open here. The Boii has Levy Freeman up onto the tower here, and they are starting to take this gate, and there is nothing back here to stop them. Bactria ended up really just boxing up here because he really didn't have a choice. He was getting surrounded by infantry, but unfortunately he did lose a lot of his archers. These camel cataphracts are trying to bust through some of this stuff, but he's got a pretty good formation there. Seleucid over here is pretty much... I mean, Seleucid's gone. You know, he's basically trying to hold off this side as long as they possibly can so that Boii and Kush can try and solidify their stuff. Or, now that the gate is taken, they can just move in, you know. Now there's nothing defending. These guys can just move in while the defenders are trying to do as much damage as they can to Seleucid, and Seleucid can just try and hold them off as much as possible. This Seleucid Gen is at 246 kills. He's trying to help finish off things like the Scythe Chariots, stuff like that. Most of his infantry is pretty much gone. Saba is really just kind of circling Bactria here, trying to get into his formation as much as possible. Got two thorax swords here against the Marib camel cataphracts, but they are getting charged in the back by camel lancers. Nice Pila throw by the thorax swords, though. Got a really good Pila toss on the camel lancers. Nicely done by him. But then Saba does have these camel archers that are just sitting here taking pot shots at the infantry from Bactria. And Bactria can't really do anything about it. His archers are dead, they're gone, so he really doesn't have an answer to these. As you can see, Kush and Boei are really they're just going to go into the city. They're just going to ignore this, maybe, kind of try and zone it out as much as possible, and then just go into the city. Because now the entire defender force, well, not the entire thing, but most of it is all out here, and now their only way back in is all the way over here. Yeah, I think this is a smart move by the attackers. Literally just saying, you know what, if you want to let us in, then we're just going to walk in. But you can see this was a huge devastation on the attackers, the attacking Seleucid over here, just absolutely annihilated by the defender sally out. I think the thing that you'll notice, though, is that the other armies have a ton left. And as you can see, there's really not much left for the defenders. So this, once again, is kind of the downside to that all or nothing. You have to either get it all or you lose. But yeah, so this was number 4. Now we'll move on to number 5. And finally, for number 5 is the settlement of Alden. And for this one, it is a 4 versus 4. On the defender's side, we have 3 Lusitani armies and 1 Carthage. And attacking, we have 2 Romes, Suebi, and Arverni. So as you could see, at this point, this battle is pretty well underway. The attackers are making pretty good progress here. Rome is got a pretty good foothold over here. Got a breach in the wall, a couple towers on the walls here, but you could see they are getting multiple units onto the settlement wall here, and along here. Then Suebi's got some units coming up as well. So Lusitani obviously is a very big guerrilla deploy army, or faction, I guess I should say, and the defenders have 3 Lusitani armies. So on this side over here, you've got a lot of guerrilla troops coming out. The attackers are really putting a lot of pressure onto the defenders at this point. So the defenders are taking a lot of their guerrillas, and they're coming out on this side gate here against Arverni. They do also have 1 Scutari Cav unit. So coming out first, you've got, let's see, 3 guerrilla warriors here, and then I think they're all guerrilla warriors. Yep. They're all guerrilla warriors. They did get a little clumped up, and so they're strung out a little bit here. But what they're going to do, they're coming around this side, and they're going to come right up against Arverni here. Because Arverni, at this point, really isn't expecting it. I think, there was an early, like a minor cav engagement earlier on, but I wanted to focus on this part of the sally because it was the biggest, the most important part of it. The cavalry was pretty minor. It really didn't get into anything. They do still have 1 of their cav units left, but I don't think that Arverni was really expecting such a late sally out from guerrilla warriors. They do have some cav that's left here, heavy horse, 2 units of heavy horse here that are charging in against the Scutari cav and the first wave of the guerrilla warriors. The guerrilla warriors are getting some pretty good javi tosses into the cavalry, and they even got a couple of javies into the Celtic slingers before they ran away. One big issue that this is going to have is stuff like this, the Oathsworn. These guerrilla warriors they're okay, they're solid, but they're not by any means a high tier unit. So things like the Oathsworn are going to do very well against them. And that's, like I say, it's 2 units of Oathsworn here from Arverni, and then their Gen is an Oathsworn as well. Also, Lusitani being such a low armor faction, they have quite a bit of archers here. But I think something like this kind of sally out, its main purpose is to slow down this attack. The attackers are making pretty good progress on these walls, so what this sally out is trying to do is really just to cause the attackers' attention to be refocused. Instead of everything being focused here, now they actually have to focus things this way, including some of their best units like these Oathsworn. So yes, the Oathsworn may chew through these guerrillas, but the guerrillas, one, they're going to get some damage. They like, regardless of how good the Oathsworn are, they will start taking losses, especially if they start getting tired. Um, so that is kind of the biggest thing, is that it's really causing the attackers to have to, delegate multiple really integral units that they need for this assault to basically just stem off this wing of guerrilla deploy here. So you can see that, all of Arverni's archer fire is focused this way. All three of their Oathsworn are focused this way. I think they put a Celtic warrior over here as well. And look, Swaby is gonna take his cavalry, and he's moving over this way. It is definitely causing the attackers to have to pay a lot of attention to a place they don't really want to. They want to really push into this settlement. They want to continue to eat up ground, take more ground here, but that's hard to do when you're being pushed from the side like this. So Arverni, if you really look at it, only has small little stuff in the settlement at this point, which is really giving the defenders a lot of time to reposition their forces, and kind of they were able to break off of this engagement and go to a different place to defend, instead of having to stand here and get tore to pieces by Arverni. So that's really what the goal is here, is just distracting forces. Now, Arverni is doing a good job in saying, you know what, this is not that meaningful. We've got enough to finish that, so they took their archers from here, and they're going to move them into the settlement. I think that's the right move, because these archers really aren't needed as much out here. These Oathsworn are going to tear these guys to pieces, and they still have the slinger here. And then Swaby is bringing his archers over, and I bet his archers probably have less ammo, so he's going to bring these forces over here. Now, once again, though, that also means that is less forces. So now Swaby literally only has one unit that I can see in the settlement. The rest of his stuff is coming over to deal with this sally out here. He's got his noble riders. What is it? 2 units of noble riders coming in to hit the backs, which is going to be very helpful now that they are, in combat with these Oathsworn. These cavalry will cause a lot of breakage here. But once again, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15 units from the attackers that are being, relegated to defeating this whole flank. And then you look at the Oathsworn, this one's not too bad, 157. But the, let's see where to go. 93 out of 160. Where's the other one? 74 out of 160. So these Oathsworn, even though they, 318 kills, 174 on the Celtic Warrior, 241 and 133, they've done a lot of damage, but it was all on very low-tier infantry. And that infantry did do some damage to these Oathsworn. These Oathsworn are no longer super, full. They have, these guys have lost, almost 70 men. These guys have lost almost a little more than half of their fours. And then the Jin didn't take too many casualties. But this is just a good example of a sally out that its main purpose is less to do damage and more to distract, more to slow down the enemy, to allow your other forces to take better positions, different positions, and be able to break off. So that is going to be the final of these 5 sally outs for part 1. Keep an eye out for part 2. I've got more clips that I'm going to be doing for that one, but it would have made this video very, very long, and I did not want to do that. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this. If you liked this format, or if you liked how I did this, you want me to do more of them, leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of it. And hopefully we will see you guys next time.